Hi, Professor Puleng.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. I just nearly collapsed.
Why? What was happening?
I think I was overwhelmed but excited.
Yeah.
All those feelings.
How was the experience for you?
Oh, it was one of the most amazing experiences. The makeup, the stylist, the nice shoes, wonderful colors. I really appreciated it.
So, for those who don't know you, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
My name is Puleng LenkaBula. I'm a professor of ethics. I work at the University of the Free State as the Deputy Vice Chancellor responsible for institutional change, student affairs, and engaged scholarship. I've worked at Wits University as the Dean. I've worked at the University of South Africa as the Dean, as the strategist and director in the Office of the Vice Chancellor. So I come with some deeper understanding of higher education. I've also worked at the University of Toronto, where I have been a visiting professor. So I like higher education.
And why is that?
I think all societies must have those who are committed to knowledge, and that knowledge to be invested in society, to transform, to change, to improve the plight of the poor, of those on the underside, those who feel prejudiced, those who often do not have opportunities to express themselves in society, including communities that live with disabilities or LGBTQIA+ persons. So that's my commitment, inclusivity, a sense of through knowledge.
That's really beautiful. And what does transformation mean to you? What is it?
I think for me, transformation means radical change. It means radical change in how we train people in higher education, in ensuring that Africa's knowledge systems are included, in ensuring that African students do not learn only Western civilization. It is unthinking the colonial lens, it's unthinking the West. It's also trying to ensure that knowledges from Africa resonate, they contribute to the development of the continent and the global community. So that for me is quite important. But transformation is also ensuring that the white privilege is contested, that inclusivity in its diversity is entailed, that we don't only think around who has benefited from the past, but we should create infrastructures that enable those who have been marginalized, either through colonialism or through apartheid, to optimally perform in areas where their talents direct them.
And how does that translate into your day-to-day life, especially at the University of the Free State?
At the University of the Free State, I'm responsible for managing a portfolio that includes a gender and anti-discrimination unit, the unit for institutional change and social justice, student affairs, where we attend to issues of well-being and healthcare, where we support students with disabilities, where we support students whose sexualities have not always been supported within our societies. But it also means ensuring that we have engaged scholarship, that university education or knowledge is not just in the ivory tower, that is shared with societies, that we do not abuse societies in our research, that we create avenues where our communities, our societies benefit from the knowledge that we produce. After all, it's supported by their taxes.
And how is that received by other people in academia?
I think the academy is quite complex a terrain. There are those who still want to preserve the privileges of the past or of being in the academy. But there are also those who are agitating for inclusive knowledge system that allow for change, that allow for inclusion, that ensure that the future of Africa, but of Africa's peoples are not derailed. And therefore, I think the latter, those that believe that knowledge can be deployed radically to change society, to overcome poverty and economic injustices, to address issues of ecological degradation and climatic changes, to ensure that those who do not necessarily want to go to the academy can also be supported to optimally reach their dreams, even if they choose different tracks. So I think education should not be elitist, it shouldn't be exclusionary, and it shouldn't be seen as a domain of only the rich.
And so how did you get into higher education? What drew you to it?
From an early age, I knew that I wanted to do something to do with education, either to be an academic or to be a social critic or to be a famous scholar and writer. Unfortunately, I was never a famous scholar and writer, but I became an academic that's committed to social justice, whether it's difficult or not. So I've not been scared to stand with those who are agitating for justice within the university system, neither to support students, especially during fees must fall, roads must fall, or stain must fall, or insourcing, because I've understood this as social justice concerns that we have to think about as we're thinking about the changes that South Africa has to entail if it were to be a competitive country globally.
Okay. And earlier you mentioned that you were visiting professor at the University of Toronto.
Yes.
Your job entails a lot of travel.
Yes.
How do you deal with that, number one? Because you do have a family here in South Africa, in Pretoria. How do you deal with all the constant traveling that you do?
Sometimes I have to invite family to also travel with me, and sometimes they contest it because they get bored that I'd be just focused on the academy. So I try to balance it by using moments when they are also actively busy in studies and so on, but also when we have to meet as family, we create that time. I love traveling. Traveling opens horizons. Traveling enables us to encounter difference and sometimes different worldviews, and I think that enriches the academy as it does maybe what I do when I teach, because I try to expose my students to the global arena, understanding that apartheid always separated South Africans from the global systems or global community. Therefore, to do that is to really give them a foretaste of what it means to being together in a global community.
And what are some of the best places you've traveled to, your favorites?
I love Mozambique for its prawns.
Okay.
Not anything academic.
Yes.
Yeah. But I also love Senegal. Senegal has the Council for the Development of Social Science Research. It has fantastic museums that curate African artifacts, African knowledge, archives. I love Morocco because they're quite exciting histories of universities, including the first university that is noted to have been started by a woman. I love Egypt. I think Egypt is fascinating. Egypt never sleeps. But I also like Switzerland, Germany a little bit, because I found the partnerships there for the universities tend to be quite long-lasting.
And moving back to a slightly more serious space, do you see any changes in what you do? Like, you know, when you do what you do, but do you ever see the results of the work that you put in at the universities and society?
Yes, I do. For instance, when I worked at the University of South Africa as the Dean of Students, I was able to institute 23 multi-purpose computer laboratories for students with disabilities. That's quite impactful,
Yes.
not only for the University of South Africa, but for society in general, and to steer people into the fourth industrial revolution at a point when that was in vogue was quite interesting. I did that in 2015 and 2016. Those discussions were not yet as central as they are today. But I also, when students come and confirm that some of the counsel or some of my works or some of works that I've prescribed for them have helped them, that's something meaningful for me. But I also see a lot of my students are in parliament, they're corporate leaders, they're politicians, some have started unions. So those are quite interesting impacts, I think, for any academic. And I'm always grateful for being given the opportunity to teach and to research and to learn with my students as I do learn with my contemporaries.
Okay. Finally, how would you like to be remembered?
I'd like to be remembered as one who was positive and optimistic. I'd like to be remembered as a person who was committed to social justice and saw it as an important part of changing South Africa, Africa, and the global landscape through my work, through my teaching, but also through the activities that I was involved, but also as a parent to two handsome boys.
Yeah. Prof, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your willingness to be our model.
Thank you.
Do you see yourself as a model in the future?
Oh, that would be interesting and nice. And it's a lot of work. It's amazing how much is invested in the processes that you entailed in. I'm really appreciative. I didn't realize that you had so much work to do, so many disciplines, so many talents, and time management and project management. And I'm really grateful for that insight.
Prof, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.